tell me about your life since you joined the Army 9 years ago.
Well, if we're gonna talk about that, I'll probably start in the Army. I had initially joined immediately after high school. I was going to be a photo documentation specialist,
Mm-hmm.
but I ended up changing my mind. I waited about 7 months, and then I re-enlisted again, or at least signed all my paperwork to join the military police. When I got to the processing center where you say your oath and you're officially enlisted, my recruiter didn't feel comfortable with allowing me to do that just because he knew how fast they were deploying. So he asked what else I'd like to do, and I decided on the nursing program.
Okay.
I loved the military. I'd still go back in today if I could. The friends I made, I still talk to a lot of them. Basic training wasn't challenging for me. It was a lot of fun, actually. I still talk to 2 girls that I went to basic training with on a pretty regular basis. It's the good part about social media is you can keep in contact with people. The timeline worked out interesting. I met my husband while we were both in medic training. He happened to be delayed from his starting, waiting for the new group to come in, and I was part of that new group. So things aligned themselves that we were able to meet, and the rest is history from that point. He was really freaking tall, and that was the first thing I noticed. Then we started spending our free time together, and he was in the combat medic portion with me, and I think he realized pretty quickly that that was not for him.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I loved it. I loved the trauma and the blood and the adrenaline that comes with it. So we ended up, he became a mechanic, and I ended up in Washington, D.C. to finish my nursing program when we found out we were going to have a baby.
Okay.
And we were separated, which was hard, but I also came down to I had to choose, do I stay in the military and risk not being a part of my child's life early on, or do I get out and do the stay-at-home route while he stays in? And that's what we ultimately chose.
It sounds like you had a difficult decision to make with loving the Army, but also needing to take care of your child.
It was very hard. I know I made the right choice because my husband deployed when our son was 12 days old, and my unit would have deployed when our son would have been 4 months old, so he would have been left without either of his parents, and that would have been really hard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So 15 months my husband spent in Iraq. Limited conversation. It's really hard, new baby, and trying to keep him involved. So we did a lot of pictures and Skype, and just letting our son hear him talk on the phone. So we were hoping he would recognize him when he came back.
Right.
That actually I think worked really well, because the day that my husband came back from Iraq, my son wasn't intimidated by him or afraid, and was immediately comfortable with him, which is huge for a child, because he hadn't been exposed to him at all or been around him, but he had that initial comfort, which was what we were working for.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in Georgia when he deployed, and when he came back we ended up getting orders for Texas, which I think was still one of the best things to happen to us. We made really good friends, and he didn't deploy per se again from there, but he did spend time away in Cuba and training elsewhere, but
Okay.
never for as long as he was before. Some of the friends that we keep in contact with, they've come to visit us here now that we're in Ohio, and we've gone back there for weddings and just to visit since we left. And that's probably the best part about the military was making these friends that we had. So while we were in Texas, I didn't end up finishing the nursing program because I got out to have my baby,
Okay.
and I did medical assisting, and I started working once my children got older, which led to the job I have now as a surgical tech for labor and delivery, which is a really awesome job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get to see people at their happiest every day, babies being born, and it's great. I mean, there are downsides. There are losses, and there are people that, have babies that have special needs, and they're happy for the birth of their child, but they're struggling with what the future's going to hold. So it's not always really great, but for the most part it is.
So it sounds like to me that even though you made the difficult decision to get out of the Army, things have come full circle, and now you're happier.
Yeah, I definitely think so. If I had to do it all over again, I don't necessarily know that I would have made the same choice. There's a possibility I would have tried to make it work,
Mm-hmm.
but looking at where things are now, I'm pretty content with the way they worked out. The hardest part right now is just having two school-age children that they've got a lot going on, and they demand a lot of attention because there's just so much going on in their lives. But I'm working evening shifts, so I'm not there for most of it.
What you're saying is you wish you had more time with the kids right now.
I do. I wish that there was a way that I could be with the kids and still work, because I enjoy working. I think even if I was in a position to be a stay-at-home mom 24/7, I wouldn't want to do that. I think it's important to get out and work, even from a social aspect, maybe just because you're communicating with adults instead of just children on a regular basis. I remember that
Right.
being very hard when the kids were young. That they, when you're home all day with a newborn and a 2-year-old, your only form of communication is with a 2-year-old. And I think that's really hard on your, I don't know, I guess your social life. But I'm hopeful that, in the next year or two, that maybe once the kids are both full-time school, we will be able to, I'll be able to switch to possibly day shift, and at least I'll be able to be home in the evenings with the kids.
Okay.
And do dinner and bedtime and bath time, and I think that's important. I think the kids are really missing that right now. The other part too is with one in football and the other in soccer, working evenings, I miss all their practices every week, which is not necessarily a big deal, but it also means I miss a lot of their games on the weekend because I also have to work every third weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they know I'm at work, and our son does this journal thing now where he writes in his journal every week and we respond, and breaks my heart because he always is talking about how he wishes I was around more and able to spend more time with him, but in the same time, he understands that I'm working, and I'm not there because I don't want to be, but it's because I need to work. And
Right.
he admits that he likes that I'm able to buy him things, and he understands the concept of money and that things cost money, so I think he does appreciate the fact that I work. It's just a different society. Women, 40, 50 years ago, working full-time wasn't the norm, or working at all wasn't really the norm.
Mm-hmm.
in any society where I think it's good for my kids to see that women can be independent and they can work and they can also help provide for their families.
Right. Thank you for coming in.